Hi, this is Kane Hodder, Victor Crowley, Jason from Friday the 13th. You're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.
All right, welcome back to the Station of Decapitation Without Your Head. I'm still Nasty Neil.
And that would make me still Terrible Troy.
Yes, and we're joined by actor, stuntman, stunt coordinator, musician, and he's a tattooed, very tall man, Nick Principy.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
Welcome. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Thanks for coming on. It's gonna be a good time. So I mentioned stunt work. How does someone get into becoming a stuntman? Like, is there a school you go to?
I've heard of them, but it's not really very popular. It's pretty tough to get into, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, it's like if you're really good at motorcycles, people in the movies will find you. If you're really good at driving, people in the movies will find you. If you're really good at falling down stairs, people will find you. Like the stuntmen that get the most work are the guys that do the most. Like they can do high falls, they do motorcycle stuff, they do car stuff, they do fight stuff. Those are the guys that really, really excel in this biz. I am not one of those gentlemen. I'm what you kind of call a grunt. Like, I can get hit by cars. I don't drive them.
Uh-huh.
I fall down stairs. I do medium to low falls. And since I have such a big fighting background, obviously choreographed fights is more my forte.
Mm-hmm. When you said that about someone that's like really good at falling down stairs, I just imagined someone who's just literally falling down stairs, like at stores and at their house. And
someone just happens to be clumsy.
Right. Sign this man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I tell you, I just thought it was something stupid, but I grew up in Rhode Island, and one of my neighborhood bars at the time, it's not there anymore, called Jerky's. You had to walk up a really big flight of stairs, and I would always freak out the employees whenever I would go to leave. I'd ask them a question and then trip, and then I'd fall down the stairs, and then everybody'd freak out, and then I'd just jump to my feet, and I'd be like, guys, I'm with the Board of Health, and I'm just saying your response time was way off. You guys should have been down here within 30 seconds or less. Bullshit. And then I'd walk out. I don't know. Stupid shit like that.
Yeah. You mentioned a fighting.
And it turns out you can make a couple bucks doing that. So, hey.
Get a free meal every now and
then. Hey,
Yeah. You mentioned a fighting background. I didn't know that. It was like MMA or boxing? Or...
Yeah, well, when I was really young, like 12, I got into boxing. And, it was no fighting style will ever be kind of better than the perfect boxer, because your hands are always going to be faster than your feet. And it doesn't need to go to the ground if you can just put someone to the ground and you keep standing. Mm-hmm. Boxing is really good for that. But that being said, it's pretty barbaric. So I got into martial arts first with Kempo, because I think that's usually almost everybody's introductory martial art. And then from there, I got more into Muay Thai and Kung Fu, like Wushu, and stuff like that. And, that taught me like meditation and, focus and a lot of different things that you could just apply to life itself besides just, fighting and stuff. Mm-hmm. And, I did, let me see, probably like 6 amateur fights and then like 2 semi-pro fights. And then I kind of just realized that, the whole fighting thing, it's pretty tough to train like a maniac and hold down a job. So, the guys that are really gung ho about it, I don't know what they do, but they're able to take 3 months off at a time to just train their asses off for their fights. And because the only way you can really make money in that field is through sponsorships and things like that. And I can only imagine how hard it is to get into the pro ranks these days, because I know guys that are amazing fighters, and they're like big in Poland or big in Japan, but they just didn't break over here in the UFC and stuff. So I guess it's just like any other kind of art form or whatever. There's a long period of suffering and living hand to mouth before you can do what you love.
So how did you go from that to working in movies as a stuntman and stunt coordinator?
Well, basically, I was in a hardcore band called CTK, and I was 23 years old, and the band had been together for about roughly 4 years or so before I just got road fatigue. I just couldn't tour anymore. We had just come off of a world tour and then a North American tour. And we were with this band called Death by Stereo, who's based out of California. And our last show was at the Gypsy Tea Room in Dallas, Texas. And it was pretty much right then and there. I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And I asked the guys in Death by Stereo, I said, hey, could I ride to California with you guys? And they said, yeah, sure. So then I told the rest of my band guys, I'm like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm going home with them. Like, what do you mean going home? I'm like, I think I'm going to move to California. Because I basically had the epiphany that I only really like two things in this world, and that's music and movies. And I figured I had spent so much time with music, try to do something in movies, anything, I always wanted to be the monster, and I figured out that stuntmen were usually the monsters in film. So when I would meet stunt coordinators, because some of my first jobs in Los Angeles, at least in movies, was working as a PA, which is basically just the bottom rung of the ladder. When you have because the majority of people that work in film, their brother does it, their uncle does it, their sisters, cousins, boyfriends, illegitimate love child, whatever. They have some kind of nepotism involved. But for folks like me who have absolutely no one, you start off just working for free, begging to be a slave, working like 15-hour days, for very little, just for them to test your mojo. But it's also a good position in the sense that when you work as a PA, you get to see every department in film work. And at some point, you kind of pick up the slack from those guys, from each department too. So you definitely get a good idea of what your focus is going to be. Like, a lot of people, they want to work in film, but they have no idea where their strengths are or if they're even cut out for it. Because I tell you, man, there is a ocean in between loving watching movies and loving working on movies, because it could make you hate movies altogether. The long hours, the no money, completely underappreciated for all your labor. I've seen strong men break down and quit many a time. So it tests their mettle. But I guess basically, to answer your question in the longest-winded form, we're talking to these stunt coordinators. They're like, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I used to fight. And, they might kind of question that. So you might have to spar with someone on the spot really quick or something to that effect, just to kind of test your mettle. And just like any other job, they have to like you.
Mhm.
I've gotten jobs over far more qualified people just because they preferred to be around me for 13 hours out of the day instead of someone else, you know?
Mhm.
Like I said, it's just like any other job, they have to like you, you know?
Yeah. Did you ever have a point in early in your career there where you started to hate movies and thought about not continuing to pursue this?
Well, it wasn't so much that, but when you're starting off, you're going to take anything you can get your hands on, and that involves I mean, if you look at my PA resume, I've worked on some. Well, I mean, my resume in general, you can see I've worked on some pretty garbage fucking movies, but doing a movie like Waitress, which is like a romantic comedy, or just stupid shit like that, where it's a genre where your heart's not invested in it. That'll definitely wear you down. And there was definitely a point where I kind of said to myself, if I'm going to break my back for these people, I want it to be on movies that I dig. Even if I don't actually end up liking the movie, it's still a lot more fun to work with like special effects people. And, horror movies are just such a blast to work on. They are the least scariest thing ever. I mean, horror films are, 10% story effects and whatnot, and then 90% editing and music. Because I tell you, most of the time when people are getting hacked up or this, that, and the other, people are cracking up, laughing, having a good time. And so, you know what I mean? Like, the intensity and tension of a horror film is not something you really feel on set too often.
Who were did you have any, I don't want to say like a stunt like hero, but was there anybody that did stunt work that was like an inspiration for
Kane
you?
Hodder.
Oh, okay.
Kane Hodder. This dude, his name is BJ Hooker. If you look this dude up, every classic movie from like the mid 70s up until like 10 years ago, this guy was on. Like, you look at his IMDb, it's just like, oh, he doubled Al Pacino at Scarface. Oh,
Wow.
he doubled friggin', Sylvester Stallone in First Blood. And it would be like, at lunch or something, it'd be like, TJ, tell me a story from Rambo. Well, we had to do a shot where, I was jumping off this 90-foot tree into a waterfall. And, we had to do an establishing shot, a Sly, jumping off the tree. And I said, Sly, I don't want to just take this and just drop 5 feet and we can sell that. And so Sly goes, no, I want to make it look good. So let's do about 20 feet. And he's like, Sly, I don't think that's the best idea. I think really 5 feet's the way to go. Yeah, it's going to be 20 feet, okay? Okay. He jumps, does it, breaks 2 ribs, and the movie gets put on dark for 4 months.
Oh, man.
So then the next day I'd be like, DJ, give me a Scarface story. Like, you know what I mean? So on and so forth. This, to this day, when the old timers are telling a story, I'm like, shut up, listen. But, and I'm wide eyed and so excited to hear it. I love that stuff.
Yeah. I love Kane Hodder's book. I assume you read it.
I can't believe to this fact that the man can read, let alone write a book. So when it comes out in audio, I'll listen to it. But that's it.
Yeah. There's a documentary version that's coming out, so maybe that'll be
waiting on it.
Now, have you worked with Kane Hodder on anything?
Yeah, we've done a few things together. We did the webisodes called Fear Clinic. Did that with him, and I was lucky enough to be the stunt coordinator, and he did stunts for me, which is pretty fucking cool on a movie called Almost Mercy.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty sweet. Have you had any actors treat you poorly, like when you were just doing the stunts?
Oh yeah, big time. I'll say right now that Frank Grillo was one of the biggest pieces of shit I've ever had the misfortune of being anywhere near. Wow. When I did the Purge Anarchy. I'm not. Yeah, the third one, election year.
Okay.
Purge 3.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest diva I have ever met in my life, and it's really funny when people ask me that question. They'll be like, who's the biggest diva you ever worked with? And I'm like, oh, Frank Grillo. And they're like, who? And I'm like, fucking exactly. Who? Because I mean, like, we know who he is because he's kind of a genre guy. Does a lot of action movies, but he's just a real fucking douchebag who he's done a bunch of fight movies, so he thinks that qualifies him as a fighter. Very arrogant. I remember I had my Glendale Fight Club hoodie on, and he was just like, oh, that's Ronda Rousey's trainer, right? I'm like, yeah, he works there. He's like, he's not a very good trainer, I'm like, okay, man, sure, whatever you say. It's like the guy is like, I've watched so many fights in my life, so I know. And it's like, dude, unless you've been in there and like lived it, I don't really value your fucking opinion.
Do you have a particular story about him on set?
Oh God, there's a bunch of them. Okay, are you familiar with the movie?
Yeah.
With the third one?
Yeah.
Kind of early in the movie when him and the girl are escaping the house, and they kind of come around the corner, and there's like these 3 dead guys, but then they pop up, and they kind of get into a fight. Well, anyway, they come around the corner, and it looks like there's 3 dead guys, but we pop up, and one guy grabs her, and I had to get on top of the roof of a Toyota Corolla, and there was no pads on the ground whatsoever. I mean, I was covered in pads, but he shoots me in the leg, and I fall off the car. We did that about 14 times, where I had to fall off the roof of a Toyota Corolla on pavement. Like I said, I was padded up, but around the 6th time, it starts, getting a little.
Yeah, that would get a little old, I think, after a while.
And so right around like the, I think it was like the 11th time, the heel of my shoe like grazed his shoulder, and I mean just grazed his shoulder. And he took his prop firearm, which is basically a real firearm with the pin removed, slammed it on the ground and screamed. He's like, "Mother cunt!" Slams the handgun down on the ground, storms off for like 45 minutes or so, where he's just huffing and puffing to himself or whatever, making this entire and keep in mind that was all night shoots, so it's like 4 a.m. or 4:30. Everybody's been working since 8 o'clock at night. Everybody's a little ornery or whatever. But he puts us all on, and there is nothing worse that you can do on a movie set than put everything on hold. These people, a lot of people are getting a lot of big hourly wages, and we're just sitting around waiting for Mr. Fancy Pants to get the sand out of his vagina. It got to the point where I forget the woman's name, but she was really sweet. But she was the lead in that also, where she wouldn't even ride in the same car with him on the rides from base camp to set. You could yell Frank all you wanted, but until you said number 1, because his name is number 1 on the call sheet, he wouldn't answer.
No.
He would literally only answer to if you were like, excuse me, number 1, picking up number. It was ridiculous.
That's awful.
So, I mean, there's been a bunch, but he absolutely just takes the cake.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Would you say
Yeah.
would you say getting the role of Chromeskull and Laid to Rest would have been like your big break in becoming like someone that's known in in like these genre movies?
Well, I mean, definitely whenever I owe to Laid to Rest because that got me going in the convention circuit. That got me acting gigs outside of stunts. So yeah, no, I mean, everything I have, as little as it is definitely due to Laid to Rest. Because I mean, I was already working fairly steadily as a stuntman, but that was the one that definitely put me over.
Yeah.
You know.
And how did you get the role? Did you know somebody? Did you audition for it? Or?
Basically, I got that role because before I really worked in stunts, I was a prop master. And I worked on a lot of cool shows with this guy who was my mentor, who taught me everything I know about props. This guy named Mark Richardson, amazing human being, amazing prop master. That's who I worked with on the Halloween remake. And we were working on a movie called Killer Pat, directed by Robert England. And Rob Hall was doing the effects on that. And I'd known Rob, but that was the first time where, you know, I'm spending like, you know, 11 hours a day, 6 days a week with the dude. And we always just talk about our favorite genre of horror. We always talk about how when people are like, you know, what's your favorite horror movie? That's like the hardest question to answer. Because it's like, well, I can tell you my favorite slasher movie, my favorite zombie movie, my favorite supernatural. It's really hard to just pick, you know, one.
I agree.
And, you know, slashers have always been my favorite. And he's like, oh, mine too, you know. And I'm like, that's my thing. Like, you know, I've played a bunch of monsters, but I'm like, that's the goal. That's the dream, is to be a slasher. Fast forward maybe a year later, and I was at the premiere for Joe Lynch's Wrong Turn 2, and Rob just came up to me and said, how you feel about chasing my wife around with a knife in Maryland's in like 2 months? And I was like, I'm down. And then we started developing the character, and that was it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So did you have like did you have a hand in making the character Chromeskull?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the mask, that was all Rob. But initially, he wanted him to wear a suit, like a suit and tie.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's a little too Reservoir Dogs, I thought. And then the knife, I completely developed. Like, I made the first prototype for that.
Wow.
Where it was just basically a trench knife meets a Bowie knife with technically the blades on the side. I took that from whaling spears.
Huh.
How they have like the hooks on the side, so like once it pierces the skin, like it can't get ripped out, you know. And if it does get ripped out, it's gonna really just destroy the entry hole. So I made like a horrible prototype, and then he took it and then made it awesome.
Yeah, it's a bitchin' knife. I love that thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and now they sell it online. They call it a shark knife. So there you go.
So once you actually get like the whole costume on, the mask and everything, and you like the first time you see yourself in full costume, what's like that feeling like?
Well, for me, it was just nervous excitement because I had been planning it out. Like I really, really overthought it, to be honest with you, because like each day that we worked and like the more intense days with like the bigger kills, like I made different playlists of music. Just with any character I play, I definitely, and I still have them, a lot of them on my iPod, is like, you know, I make playlists for each character to listen to always just kind of stay in the mood. And so between the music and the wardrobe, I was always on go. And I mean, like when we shot in Maryland, that was, you know, it was all night shoots. and it was just so miserable because it was just freezing cold out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, the only thing that was good when you see the sun coming up is like, oh, it means we can't shoot anymore. It means we're going home soon. So, but that's good. I kind of like that. You know, I don't like to be comfortable, and I don't want to be happy when I'm doing like that kind of thing. I want to be slightly angry and annoyed and kind of angry with the world because it just it shows on character, especially when you're doing like a silent role like that. I mean, all of your acting is now in your body language and your movements and things like that. So I really think when you make yourself suffer, it shows in the best ways.
Yeah. So each of those the music lists, are they each different for each character?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, some stuff will be like a lot more spacey and then a lot heavier, like do stuff like Neurosis or like Cult of Luna. And then like, you know, for like the Killing Days, it'd be more like sludgecore stuff like I Hate God, and like chase scenes and stuff. It'd be like grindcore kind of stuff like Pig Destroyer. But then like there'd be calmer days where I'd do like stuff without any lyrics at all, like Boards of Canada or like some of the spacier ISIS songs, stuff like that.
That's cool. You should like put up a list of those sometime.
Yeah, that'd be interesting
for fans of the movie. To
I think you know what, if you do a Google search for like my name and Chromeskull, there's like some kind of website that's like already devoted to something to that effect.
Oh, really?
And it was basically just like, you know, this one interview I did, and that's all they asked me is what I was listening to at the time. Because basically the interviewer, he was pretty sharp. He said he noticed that in almost all the behind-the-scenes footage on the DVDs, he said, he's like, you always have headphones on, no matter what. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you're pretty observant.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's how we got into that. And I think he pretty much posted the playlist for the first Laid to Rest, not the second one.
Yeah. Where did you come up with that idea? Is it just something you thought would be good for
what idea?
To listen to the
music?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, you know, music and film are the only two things I really love in this world. So they're always going to bleed into each other, and I just know that through the acting process and things, you know, if you can find any kind of little cheat to get you in the headspace quicker than another, you know, music definitely helps. It definitely helps set a mood or a tone, whatever you're going for, you know?
Yeah. Did you have any...
I don't know of anyone else that does it, but I'm sure there are, you know?
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've heard of some actors talking about headphones and stuff, but they're not really going into what they're listening to.
Right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think I can take credit for it. I'm sure I'm not the first to do it.
Do it. Just take credit for it.
Hey.
We won't judge.
Well, do you remember one interview that specifically came up that he told us that but he wouldn't tell us what he listened to for some reason. I can't remember who it was, but it was, I don't know why he wouldn't tell us. Like, it was some big secret, but.
That's weird, yeah. I mean, off the top of my head, I know, like I said, there's a lot of Pig Destroyer, a lot of I Hate God, Neurosis, Blood for Blood, Integrity, you know, a lot of really heavy, grimy shit.
Yeah.
It's funny because most of the time I say these bands, and people are like, I have no idea who these bands are. You know, like, all right, yeah, that's cool.
Yep. Anything you wouldn't normally listen to?
My musical tastes are so weird. Like, I'm the last guy that you want to hand over their iPod and just hit shuffle. Because, I mean, you know, 1 minute it could be like a Bangles song, and the next thing you know, it's like the score to Day of the Dead, and then it goes into like an 8-minute black metal song, and then it goes into a Wu-Tang song.
Nice.
Like, it's just
You're pretty
all
diverse.
over the place.
Yeah.
Well, it just depends on my mood.
Yep.
Did you have any input on the different like kill scenes?
Basically, me and Rob for the first one, and the second one was much harder. But for the first one, it was me and him going, "What are things we've never seen before?"
Oh, that's
which
awesome.
is really hard.
Yeah.
It's like, what are some kills we've never seen before? And then he would say something, I'd be like, no, that was in the Prowler. And then, we'd do something else, and he'd be like, and I'm like, no, that was in Just Before Dawn. So the first one was fun. The second one was hard. Because, you're not only trying to do kills that aren't in any other movie, but they've got to be even better than the first one.
Right.
And I don't care what anybody says. It doesn't matter what actor or actress is in the Laid to Rest movies. The kills are the star. The kills are what makes that franchise the best, I think, because we have the best practical, and that's a key word, practical effects than I think any other slasher movie.
Yeah, they're awesome. In the second one, which is fresh in my mind because I just watched it again, is there's a lot of like heads being split down the middle, which you don't really see in much stuff, and that's pretty awesome. Even just the opening when they're like putting your face back together, I think is pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, that's pretty gruesome.
Yeah. In the German release, Germany, like I love Germany and I love the people of Germany, but their ratings board can just go fuck themselves. They're just horrible people because they cut out so much of these movies that shit like won't even make sense. Like, and then like the hypocritical factor is what really fucking kills me. Is because then, like 3 months later, they released the unrated super gore version, and then even then, it's still a trimmed down version.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of hardcore horror fans in Germany. They'll look at the runtime of the film, and then they'll go and look at the Austrian version of the movie. Right. And, if the Austrian version's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes longer, they won't buy the German version. They'll make sure they just get the different country.
Wow.
So, I mean, they just kind of fuck themselves as far as sales-wise goes. And, because I know with Laid to Rest 2, they took out like 20 minutes.
Wow.
And the movie's only an hour and a half. So, like, I know for a fact they took out the entire opening credits scene, like the whole surgery thing.
Yeah.
That was gone.
Damn.
Oh, man.
They took that out right away. And I'm just like, this is the country that gave us Necromantic.
Yeah.
And Necromantic 2 and, King of Death and all those Jörg Bartenheim movies.
Yeah.
And it was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, this was weird. I know. We have one of our biggest fans is in Germany, Vera Newhoff, so we'll give her a shout out. But I think she had even mentioned that where she will go to these like not conventions, but where they sell different movies because she gets the other versions because they cut the movies up so much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's not just horror movies. It's action movies, drama, you name it. They just there's just one snooty German sitting there like, I don't like. We will punish this production. Because I don't know what it's like over there, but I know for a fact, like the MPAA over here, it'll be like 2 soccer moms, a few people like well into their like late 70s, and then like a couple priests.
Nice.
It's like
perfect.
That's who's deciding these movies' fate, And so
you made a movie with in Germany, right? Seed, C2. Was that made in Germany? I know the director's German.
We like to pretend that movie never happened. But what do you call it? it was a complete German production,
Uh-huh.
but it was actually shot in Las Vegas.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I had a blast shooting it, but, you know, the end product is, yeah.
Uh-huh. What was,
But it's
I've
like
had the direct...
Lance Henriksen always said, he's like, I have my good movies and I have my alimony movies.
You know what? I quote that all the time because it was in his book, and I love that. But yeah.
Yeah.
And,
so I don't know. I think any actor, you know, I've never been married. I don't have any kids, but we all have quote unquote alimony movies.
Yeah, yeah. What did you think of the director, Marcel Waltz?
Sweetheart, total nice guy, super, super, super nice guy. Yeah. He's a really nice guy.
Mm-hmm. So, you said part 2 was harder for Chromeskull, Laid to Rest, because you had to try to up the kills and everything. But were you happy with the movie?
Yeah, I mean, we I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, go on. You probably have a better answer than what I was saying.
Well, no, just like I said, yeah. I mean, we had to up everything. I mean, it's a sequel, and I wanted to follow the tradition of those slasher films where, you know, the sequel's always, you know, more intense. Like everything's just more and more and more, you know. And you know, it was hard because we had half the budget that we had of the first one, and 2.5 more of the kills, and I had to go through like 6 hours of prosthetics every day. So I would have to show up to work at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. to be ready to shoot by like 9.
Yeah.
And then you get out of work at like 8:30 at night. It takes about an hour to get all of it off. And then you got to run home just to sleep and, you know, do it all again.
Yeah. Was the makeup harder in the second one?
Well, yeah, because
you have like the...
You know, the first one, all it was just you just stuck the mask on and boom, good to go.
Right.
Whereas in the second one, when I'm wearing the mask, I would wear a cowl, which is like a big, you know, head and neck prosthetic. And then when the mask was off, that's when I would have to have the 6 hours of makeup. And then sometimes during like the surgery stuff, it would be like, you know, a few hours of makeup and stuff. And it was just a lot of makeup time, you know.
Is it harder putting the makeup on or taking it off? I know it's less time,
well,
but I don't know if it's...
just takes a lot more time. And this is the way I always look at it. If I'm getting overtime on a film, I will sit in the chair and let the makeup people take their sweet ass time. And, you know, usually they take like brushes and sponges and they just dab a little bit at a time and then pull and dab a little bit and pull. But if I'm on like a flat, when they say wrap, I will leave with all that shit still on me, and then I'll just stand in the shower for like 20 minutes with the hot water and just let it just melt off of me.
Heather Markham here on Facebook wants to know, she heard that you partially base your role in Laid to Rest on Roy from Blade Runner, and she wanted to know what parts of Roy inspired you.
I've always kind of said I think a lot of the stuff I do is based off Roy Batty. And I mean, what it comes down to is just like his body movements, how he would just have his head cocked down with like that dead stare with his chin down. And then he'd go from that to like, you know, whip his head to the side or whip his head back and then move really quickly and then go right back to being dead centered and like just dead still like that, you know? Because obviously, you know, I didn't have lines, so I definitely didn't do a vocal performance. So it was all basically, I took everything from the end scene in Blade Runner where he's stalking Deckard, and you know, what is it like to live in fear? You know, that whole scene. That's basically what I'm talking about. Yeah. I took a lot of that and incorporated it to Chromeskull.
By the way, are you looking forward to the new Blade Runner?
Big time. Absolutely. The running joke is just Harrison Ford is just so over it these days. Did you see him in the trailer? He's like just wearing like a gray T-shirt and like sweatpants. It's like I was joking to my roommate. I was just saying like, how much you want to bet he just showed up to set and they were like, okay, Mr. Ford, here's your wardrobe, and he's like, no, I'm wearing it. We're good. They're like, no, I really think you should wear it. He's like, no, we're good. Let's go. You know.
Yeah. The first time I saw the trailer, I didn't even know it was for the new Blade Runner until he showed up, and I was like, oh man, this is pretty sweet.
Right. Yeah.
Heather also says, this isn't a question, but she said that you totally creeped her out in Madison County.
Oh, right on. Thank you.
Yeah.
Goal accomplished.
Several people have asked about Laid to Rest 3, if that will ever happen.
Everybody always asks me that, and I don't, and no disrespect to any of them because I love them all and I want it to happen just as much as they do. But I don't think they understand the hierarchy of these things. Because if it was up to me, we would have shot it probably like 5 years ago.
Right.
But I'm not in charge of bringing the money in or setting everything up. Like, that all the backbreaking labor that it takes just to make, any kind of movie, They just tell me when to show up and I show up, and as far as that goes, I would love for Rob to shoot me a text or a call and say, hey, we're doing it,
Yeah.
But, all I can say, I always say this, the same thing. It is going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. You have some cool Chromeskull tees I saw on your Facebook.
Yeah. Retro Outlaw, and one of my favorite T-shirt companies out there, like Han Cholo and Ultra Trash, which is an amazing German company that does all like these like fake movie posters as T-shirts. Mm-hmm. They're based out of Germany, so like their shit's a little bit more expensive because the shipping and all that. But they make some really awesome stuff. But Chris Santoro at Retro Outlaw, he does a lot of mashup stuff. Like one of the only posters I have in my room it's the Duke Boys, and they got pulled over riding a sand speeder, and like a stormtrooper's writing them a ticket. He just does tons of mashup stuff like that. So I don't know. He just decided to make a Chromeskull / Power Peralta shirt, where instead of like the skeleton busting out of the hole, it's just Chromeskull. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's doing a limited run of that. It's that T-shirt is only available through his website, retrooutlaw.com, and they're only available for the month of July. And that's it. And then I'm going to Germany in November, and I'll probably make a batch of Chromeskull T-shirts just to sell at the convention.
Yeah. It seems like Germany has a big horror movie fan base.
Germany is just the mecca for music and horror movies. Mm-hmm. Like they have some of the best festivals in the world in the summertime, like Wacken Festival, like these 3-day, where like in Europe, it's not weird for like a punk band to play with like a death metal band to play with like an industrial band. Mm-hmm. So like some of these festivals are just 3 days of like so many amazing bands, and then, and the horror culture is just so big over there because, horror and heavy metal is always kind of going hand in hand. Mm-hmm. So, most metalheads are big horror fans and vice versa. So, and that's where I'm getting a lot of love with my band right now, which is my big focus, The Last Day. Mm-hmm. So, because the EP that we were going to eventually release probably within the next 3 months or so, is going to get released on a German label And then the American one will probably just go out on Bandcamp.
Yeah. So tell us about the last day. How did that come about?
Well, I was visiting Rhode Island, and one of the first bands I'd ever played in, and not like first bands ever, but like the first band that actually took it real serious and like left the state and, you know, played New York and did weekend tours and stuff like that. He was jamming with this dude I know named Russ, and I just kind of sat in and just started screaming again. It felt right. It just felt really, really right. And the songs that he had written already, the structure was there, but it needed some nips and tucks, so I gave it some nips and tucks. And, you know, that's where we got the 4-song EP. And it kind of works out perfect right now because I'm the only one that's not married with kids and stuff like that. They all have, like, real jobs and things like that. So I can put a lot of my time into all the, you know, the behind-the-scenes stuff that it takes to make a band work and, you know, just play, like, every couple of months, one really good show instead of playing like 6 shitty shows, you know, and just exhausting yourself and things like that. And that way it also leaves it open so we can actually maybe do some decent tours in Europe and in the States if it provides itself. Like I'd never do a headlining tour again, but if one of the bigger bands that I'm friends with wanted to take us out on the road, that's a different story. I would do that. Yeah. And like I said, with Europe, especially with the EP getting released on a European label, that obviously makes things, you know, a lot easier to go over there. And again, in Europe, you know, in the States, it's kind of hard to get someone to even just listen to your stuff. Over there, they're just stoked. Yeah. You know, and they're like, "Oh, what kind of music is it?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm really bad at describing these things." When people say it kind of sounds like the Deftones, they're like, "Oh, I love the Deftones," you know, and they're all over it. And you know, by the time that first song is ended, they've already told, you know, 3 or 4 of their friends about it. And there it is. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. You know, the last time I was like full speed ahead with music, MySpace had like just been invented. So I'm really new to this whole social media thing. So that's why I try to push so hard to get as many likes as humanly possible on the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/thelastday13. We got 1 song up there right now. In the coming weeks, probably post 1 more song, and then we'll have to wait until after the EP comes out overseas. Got a really cool show in Massachusetts coming up in October that I can't really talk about just yet.
That's where we are,
but
Massachusetts.
Yes, I will say the place that we'll be playing, there is horror films and heavy music at the same time.
I'm pretty sure I know exactly where this is.
I think you guys, you know what I'm talking about without having to say it, because I can't, but you know. So we got that going, really pumped about that.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah. We got to play at Lupo's in Rhode Island then, because, you know, if you're from there.
I'll probably, since I'll be flying out just for that, I'll probably book some kind of show on the East Coast, but it could be anywhere from Connecticut to New Jersey. Yeah. Because like I said, I'm not going to do any headlining shows. It's got to be like, like in Connecticut, it would be with, you know, a friend's band. In New Jersey, it would be like with Bigwig or something like that. And then, you know, Boston's just, you know, there's a million awesome bands that I'm still in touch with that would definitely give us a slot, but definitely stoked. I know all the other guys in the band, they're really stoked. So I don't know. Yeah, that's been my main focus. Other than that, I'm going to be gone for the whole month of August. I'm doing a movie that my buddy Will Clevenger is producing, and the RZA from Wu-Tang Clan actually wrote and is going to direct it. It's called I think it's called Cutthroat City, I think. It's basically like a heist movie that takes place like a day after the Katrina.
Yeah.
About this casino that got robbed. Because, this casino, it's open year-round every day, but the only time it closed in, its history was because of Katrina. So a few roughnecks banded together and stole a bunch of money from said casino, and they're making a movie about it. And, I don't know, Omar Epps is in it.
Oh, sweet.
RZA's in it. A bunch of people's in it. I think it's like a $5 million, $8 million kind of movie, so it's got potential to be in theaters and stuff like that too.
Yeah,
so
that's cool. And I need to ask about a movie. I've been talking about it for years. It seems on the show because I've seen posters for it, and is Sky Sharks. Is this actually coming out anytime?
Man, see, I think, to be completely honest, those guys they kind of dug themselves in a hole, because the trailers and everything that you guys seen, it's got all these actors in it, and basically what they did was, I think it was like the 2013, the 2014 horror conventions over there. They just got as many actors as they could from those conventions to be in this trailer. And then I think they kind of tallied up the cost of how much it would be to get us out there, put us up, and pay our day rates. And they were like, I don't think we can afford to make this movie.
Oh, man.
So literally a year ago, they were like, hey, Nick, what's happening? Production will be half in Germany and half in Canada. So I will let you know, what half you will be a part of, and da-da-da. And then, 8 months go by, and I, shoot them an email, and I'm like, hey, dude, what's going on, da-da-da. And they're just like, yes, the fate of Sky Sharks is up in the air right now because we did not get all the money that we needed, and, so I don't know what's going to happen. To be completely honest, I know they shot a bunch more footage besides the stuff that you've seen on YouTube and things like that, but it's definitely not enough.
Yeah,
for a movie.
I feel bad because I kind of guessed that on the show. I mentioned that it's I don't think this is happening because it listed like 20 or 30 people you know of, and then I know Dieter Laser told us he really wasn't in it and all this stuff. And then I just been saying I don't think this is a real movie, but I was hoping it would be.
Yeah.
Nazis on sharks.
Basically the night that I was supposed to fly in for the convention, they actually flew me in one night earlier. I worked for 12 hours straight, and we shot everything with me, and Robert Lasardo. And then some other German people. I don't know who they are. And then that was it. And then, like I said, over the course of that weekend, they got basically every actor that was there.
Yeah.
And then the following year, they did the same thing. And I don't know.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Tales of Halloween, and your character in it was awesome. The one by Mike Mendez. So how did you get involved in Tales of Halloween, and what did you think of the finished project?
Awesome. I'm not a huge fan of anthology films.
Oh, really? I usually
for the most part, because usually it's maybe out of 8. 2 of them are awesome, and the other ones are but yes. I think Tales of Halloween, 80% of the shorts in that are fucking awesome. I got involved with that just because of Mike Mendez. We've been friends for years. I'm just kind of his go-to big guy. because he knows how much I love the genre, and there aren't as many directors out there like Mike who truly love their subject matter as much as Mike does. Mm-hmm. Like Mike is one of the biggest geeks ever. Mm-hmm. If you go to his house, you can't see an inch of wall because it's covered in horror toys and superhero toys. Uh-huh. And like, not just like the toys you can get at Target. We're talking about like, limited edition, the bad guy from the movie Black Rain. He found a 12-inch figure of that guy. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the sickness is deep. Like, like 12 different RoboCops. And, you know what I mean? Like, one of the funniest stories fucking ever. I love telling this story. He brought a girl that he was dating to his apartment, and she works in porn. Mm-hmm. And so they walk into his apartment, and she just takes a look, and she just goes, Jesus. And he's like, what? He's like, come on, I work in horror movies. And she goes, I work in porn. It doesn't mean I have dicks and tits all over my apartment. I was like, touche. You have a point.
I love it. Mm-hmm. I have a bunch of wrestlers on my wall. I'm very cool. Dusty Rhodes, Papa Shango, and a bunch of other guys over here. But do you yourself keep any props or anything from the movies you've been in?
Yeah, I mean, if something speaks out to me, like, I'll ask for it. I know from Halloween, I had a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. I always try to, any of the gigs that I really, really liked, I try to keep like a piece of the wardrobe or one of the props or something like that.
Yeah.
And then other times I'll get like a bunch of disposable stuff, and that way I can, do raffles for charity and stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By the way, Tales of Halloween, we went to see. They were showing it at the Brattle Theater in Boston. So it's always fun to watch a movie any way you can, but when you see it on the big screen, it's really awesome.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. I didn't know that it got theatricals that far away.
Yeah, it was just, I think it was just one weekend, but we made it out there. It was awesome. Which was harder mask, the one with the mask or the one where it's just like the monster's face, the killer's face?
I would have to say when I had to wear both at the same time.
Oh, I see. So there, I got you.
That was pretty tough. Mm-hmm. And then the hard part with that one is that the glue on a lot of the prosthetics kept coming undone because of how much blood we dropped in that little fight scene where we just keep hacking each other's limbs off.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh.
It's like, it would be like, okay, dry you off, reapply glue, now put blood back on so it matches, just to do it all over again. Like, I think it was like 6 or 8 times.
Yeah.
It was fucking messy. I remember right when we got done shooting, and literally the last frame that we shot was, the last frame in the movie of, like, our 2 bodies headless and limbless, just laying there, spurting blood all over the place. Oh. All the camera guys get all the camera stuff out, and all the electric guys get all the cables and lights out. And one of the producers just stood there, and he's just staring up, like the ceiling covered in blood, the walls, the floor, like nothing was spared. It was like guar plate in there, So the producer just looks up and he looks down and he goes, "Who the fuck's gonna clean all this?" And I just kind of looked to him and I'm like, "Luckily not me."
Yeah. Troy says goodbye. He's sorry, but his mic died. So
no worries. Bye, Troy.
Yeah. He was happy that you liked the new Spider-Man because he's a huge comic book fan since we were kids. That's my brother, by the way, Troy. And he was happy that you liked Spider-Man because it was his favorite Spider-Man film.
Loved it. Absolutely flawless. I thought that movie was, the third shot was the charm with this one. They really nailed it.
Yeah. And I love the villain, because I always like when the villain has a reason for being, the villain. He's not just inherently evil or whatever, which that can be cool too. But
sure, well, I've been saying, it's like, in the comics, the Vulture is just a pathetic, very forgettable villain. I've always compared him to that Bugs Bunny cartoon where it's like that Vulture who's like, my mama done told me to bring a rabbit for dinner. Like he basically seems like based off that. But like I said, he's just very forgettable. And, Michael Keaton just destroyed it. Because my biggest method for playing a bad guy is villains and bad guys, they don't see themselves as the bad guy.
Right.
They justify just about everything they do. So I think when you're playing these parts, you have to find a way to justify everything you're doing. And I think Michael Keaton was just a perfect example of that. Like, to the point where I think at certain times you sympathize with him.
Definitely, yeah.
You're like, wow, he's not that bad of a guy. Like, he's doing this for his family, and he's tired of being the little guy getting trampled on by all these big corporations and da-da-da.
Yeah.
So like, it's almost like sometimes, like when you listen to Charles Manson talk, you're like, he's got a point there. He's got a point. And then he's like, I'm Jesus Christ, and I make sandcastles out of my own poop. And then you're like, oh my God, what am I talking about? I'm fucking listening to Charles Manson.
Have you been to the Museum of Death since you live out there in Hollywood?
Sure. Yeah. Plenty of times. Yeah. You only go once. I mean, I guess you go again if you're like, if you're showing. If you're showing somebody like, oh, you haven't seen it, yeah, you got to check it out. But
sure.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I get
almost anything they have there you can see online, but I don't know. It's cool to see it in one place.
Yeah,
definitely one of the better spots in Hollywood to check out if you're only in town for a little bit.
Yeah, we were there a few years ago, and that was one of the places we went. It was cool, but I could see if I lived there, I wouldn't want to. Probably once was enough.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You go once, and that's enough.
Yeah, I really liked the first room the best, where it was all the it was like all the artwork from the different serial killers and whatnot.
Yeah, actually the first time I ever went there, they were just setting that room up. It was kind of funny because the dude who like curated it, he's like, check this one out. He's like, isn't this one insane? He's like, this is from the French vampire killer, who was,
I know what you mean, but
it says it in his name. Yeah, I mean, he killed a few girls. He drank their blood. He's famous over there because he's not in jail. He just went to a loony bin for like 6 years, and they let him out. And because the guy's like, he's like, dude, check it out. And it was, he's like, it's this dude just eating his own intestines. Like, isn't that fucking morbid? Like, what kind of mind comes up with that? I'm like, dude, that's the cover of a horror movie. That's anthropogynous. Yeah, he didn't even know that was the cover of a movie. He thought that, this deranged dude just did a drawing of a guy eating his own intestines, and he had all these, like, existential ideas that was, I'm like, no, this lunatic just probably saw the VHS box art to a movie called Anthropogynous, and there you go. He's like, oh, I could tell I just fucking totally rained on his parade.
And I was happy that you posted on Facebook about the FP. I watched it. That's one movie of yours I had not heard of, and I just loved it. It's totally original, and it's not horror for people listening, but I'm sure a lot of people like all kinds of movies. But when you heard the idea for it, what did you think? Because it's so weird.
Well, the irony is Jason Trost and his sister, who did all the costumes on the FP, they were the wardrobe people on Laid to Rest.
Oh, cool.
And he kept telling me about, the FP. He's telling me all about it. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, I gotta get in on this.
Yeah.
You know. So then that's when he wrote me the character of BLT.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like we shot it like maybe like 3 months after Laid to Rest wrapped.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean that movie, it's definitely in my top 5 of the things that I've done that I'm just super, super proud of. Just it's so original. You can't really compare it to everything. Yeah. The best description that we say is like it's every action movie cliche, but instead of fighting, it's Dance Dance Revolution matches.
Right. Uh-huh.
You know. So did you see the first 10 minutes of the sequel?
No, I haven't seen that. Is that
Yeah, if you go to because J-Tro just opened up an Indiegogo page to try to fund the sequel, but initially he wanted to do it as like a TV show, so we shot like a 40-minute pilot.
Oh, sweet!
And on the Indiegogo page, he shows that the first like 12 minutes of the movie.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, and it definitely sets up some shit.
Yeah, like you said, it's like I don't know, one of those action movies where the brother dies and he's gonna go and fight one last time. So it's all that stuff, but it's dancing. And
it's every action movie cliche. Yeah. And if Mad Max were a bunch of wiggers.
Right. When you saw the finished project, and it has all the music and stuff added to it, I know you're making it, but it's going to be different once you see it edited. What did you think of the finished movie?
Which one?
The FP.
The first one or the second one?
Well, either one, I guess. I don't know if you've seen them both.
Well, but the second one, it was like, at that point, he had like double the money of the first movie just to do 40 minutes.
Yeah. So
everything was bigger, more extras, much bigger sets. The costumes are absolutely insane. Like with the first one, it's like, just sometimes when you get done with the movie, I mean, who knows how the audience is going to take it, but you're like, man, this is cool. Mm-hmm. Like, this is just going to be a cool flick.
Yeah.
And, it of course didn't have huge success, which I definitely didn't expect it to anyways, because it's a very niche movie, but, it's just one of those things that people are either going to love or hate when they see it. Mm-hmm. And I probably don't get along with anybody that would hate that movie just because it's just so fucking out there,
Speaking of that, I saw you posted a picture with Michael St. Michael's from the Greasy Strangler, and
yeah, that weirdo.
Which I've always said, someone doesn't like the Greasy Strangler.
He's such a weird guy. Yeah, he's not acting.
What were you doing with him? What are you working together, or did he just start strangling you?
No, yeah, right. It was funny. Again, Mike Mendez. He saw the picture. He's like, "What bathroom is this taken in?" But Anthony DiBiase's got this movie called Extremities, and I guess he shot most of it in Canada, but he did. We did some pickup shots here in LA, and I knew Felissa Rose and Tiffany Shepis was going to be it, but when I got there, I saw the Greasy Strangler in the corner getting his dick cut off, and I'm like, dude, fucking Greasy Strangler, are you serious? So I was like, I got to get a picture with you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you like the Greasy Strangler?
Oh yeah, I mean, something that weird just can't be ignored.
Agreed.
Something that's strange. I just that has to be taken in, and
Yeah, I dedicated a whole week to the show to the Greasy Strangler, and just like interviewed everyone.
Yeah.
It was so awesome.
It was funny. Like I had saw that movie, and I'd been off Facebook for a while, and then when I went back on, I just saw all those beanies, the pink ones that just said Greasy. I'm like, oh wow, because like I had just saw it on Amazon Prime, and I had no idea that it had such a following. So I was really stoked for everybody involved with that.
Yeah. Speaking of MySpace, that's actually where I met Mike Mendez when we started the show, like in 2005, 2006-ish. Was one of the first guests was Mike Mendez, and we got him on through MySpace.
Right, there you go.
Mm-hmm. So
anyway, Mike's a good dude.
Yeah, he's a man. We've had him on many times, and it's also with Adam Green, but he's too big now to talk to us. I'm just kidding.
Oh God.
No, he's been on many times too. How would people follow you on social media?
All I have is Facebook. I don't have a Twitter. I don't have an Instagram. I have a fan page, and that's Nick Principy, and I just do work-related posts there. And then I have just my personal page, which is Nicholas Principy, and I just say random stupid shit on that one. And then, of course, there is my band, The Last Day, and that's Facebook, The Last Day 13. And that's basically it. Anything else, and it's not actually me. Because I've gotten a few times where people have been like, hey, I hit you up on Twitter and you didn't respond. I was like, yeah, it's because I don't have one.
I guess it's better than if they did respond and they just pretended they were you.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I've actually lost a few gigs because, there's a few Nick Principes out there.
Yeah.
And, they don't work in film, but they're like, hey, I'd love for you to be in this movie. And they're like, oh, you didn't write back. I'm like, because it's not me.
Right.
Like, I'll always write back, at least.
Uh-huh.
So. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been awesome
having you. It's
been
been really cool.
I really enjoyed it. Anytime you want to come back on, if you have something coming up, you're free to do so.
Awesome. Yeah, just, again, The Last Day. Check it out. If you dig it, please like the page. If you really like it, share the page. Greatly appreciated. And thank you so much, Neil.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Nick.
All right, brother. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody. This is Adam Green, the director of Spiral. And when I'm not painting women and killing them in my bathroom, I'm listening to Without Your Head.